Let's talk about the arms by talking about the skeleton that's here. Like with the rest of the body, the skeleton is really the foundation to everything. And we can't really talk about the arms without, again, just mentioning the scapula. The scapula, again, is the shoulder blade that seems to pop up everywhere. It's not just in the shoulder, it's also in the arm, and it's also going to be something we have to talk about as we talk about the muscles as well of the arm. What's important about the shoulder blade specifically is that if we were to just have a quick look at this, there are three main marks, I suppose, that are really important for the arm. The first one is going to be this one here. This is the area where the actual humerus, the main bone of the bone of the upper arm, actually attaches. The second one is going to be this one here, which is the acromion process, and that's the point we've been talking about before. That's where the deltoid goes from, that's where the clavicle attaches to, and it's just generally a really important mark. And then we have this guy as well, the coracoid process. And this is really important because this is where stuff like the biceps is going to attach from. So if we were to just have a quick look at this, now what we can see is that this is where the humerus attaches. We're not going to spend more time on it than that. We're not going to look at like individual little grooves or anything like that. I don't find that to be particularly useful. But these things here are really useful because some of the most hero muscles in the entire body will attach to these areas. Again, specifically the deltoid attaches here and the biceps will attach here. If we look at the bones of the arm, we only have three bones we really have to concern ourselves with. The top bone is going to be the humerus. And the humerus is almost like the cartoony looking bone. Essentially, you can simplify it down into a tennis ball here on top. And then it goes downwards like this. It just goes downwards and then it goes out like so. And this is definitely a simplification. But it's a pretty useful simplification of it. So we have the ball up here, which attaches up here into the socket of the scapula. And then down here, we have some important parts. We have two pointer bits. The pointer bits here are called epicondyles. And this is something you can hear all the time when you're dealing with like actual anatomy, not just this course, but if you're actually looking into like anatomical resources, you're going to hear the term medial and lateral. Medial, this is something we talked about with the scapula as well. Medial just means towards the center. So this is the medial side, and lateral means towards away from the center, like towards the outer. So this is the medial, and this is the lateral. So this is the medial epicondyle, and this is the lateral epicondyle. You don't really have to memorize their names, though it can be handy. But what just is important, well, I wouldn't even just say important, I would say really, really essential, is to just know that these two little notches exist, because this is where all the forearm muscles essentially will attach to. So if you don't have these two bones in your mental library, the forearm becomes practically unsolvable. That's when you're just going to be like bashing your head against the wall. But if you do know them, then this becomes much, much, much easier. So to reiterate here, for the top bone, we have a tennis ball here, and we have the two shapes down here. And this bone is just called the humerus. And then we have the forearm, and the forearm is a really interesting one. The key to the forearm is to understand that there are two bones in the forearm. This bone here is called the ulna, and this bone here is called the radius. The way I like to think about the two of them in terms of like their names, it's a bit confusing, which is the ulna, which is the radius. The radius attaches to the thumb side, and the ulna attaches to the pinky side. And a little mnemonic for you here can be that you can think about a giant thumb. This is how I think about it, just like normal size hands, but just the biggest thumb in the world. The radius of the thumb is just much bigger than the other ones. That's a pretty handy way for me to memorize which side is where, because it's hard to memorize anatomy. There's enough anatomy here that this stuff just becomes tricky. So we have the ulna and we have the radius. Another really important point about these two bones is that this point here is the actual elbow, also known as the olecranon. We're just going to keep referring to this as the elbow, but this is the actual elbow. This is what you would hit if you were to just hit your elbow right now. That'd be this point right here. And as you can see, it has this really nice little, almost like notch here. You can see it's like a pretty mechanical thing. It's like here you can see that we have like an area going in. And then you can see that we have the humerus up here, and it's almost like the two are going into each other, like so. And this just means that you can actually rotate this around it. It's very mechanical. The skeleton of the body is incredibly mechanical once you start to break it down. So we can just observe this and just appreciate how interconnected these two are. Now, with the joint up here, you can see that this is like a ball joint. So that means you can really rotate your arm in any degree you want. Of course, you have the flexibility of your arm, of the muscles and such. But if you just were to have this here, you could really rotate this in practically any direction. This is not the case for the hand, even though you can really move the hand to all different directions as well. Like your hand is incredibly flexible. Your hand does not just go like this way and this way. The hand will rotate in insane ways. So how on earth is this happening? Well, what's happening is that these two bones, the ulna here and the radius, remember the thick thumb of the radius, these two will rotate around each other. So specifically what's happening is that we have the ulna being static, and then the radius will rotate around. So this point here will just like rotate this way, or will rotate this way. And this just creates the rotation of the hand. It's really interesting how much rotation you can get here just by rotating these two bones without needing to actually like have like a ball joint or something. And this means that you have a lot of stability in it, as well as a lot of flexibility in it. And then if we take this even further, you can now see that we have some bones in the hand. And what's really important is that we have to separate these into what's actually bone and what's actually the fingers. Because a common mistake, if you were to just look at the skeleton, would be like, well, pretty tiny hand, pretty long fingers. And this is not actually the case. What's happening here is that all this here essentially forms a common mass. And then now this is starting to make more sense. Now you can see that we have the different bones here. And same thing here with the thumb as well. This is actually the thumb, and this guy here forms a common mass as well. Then this attaches here. So this is really important to keep in mind, that this here is a common mass. This here is all one big thing that definitely compresses and stretches a lot, but the fingers do not go from here. So to sum up the skeleton of the arm, we have the humerus up here that has a tennis ball. It goes down. It has the two pointy bits like so. We have the ulna going here. We have the radius going here, and the tip of the ulna right here is called the olecranon, or simply just the elbow. And in order to rotate the hand, the ulna and the radius will rotate over each other. Specifically, the radius will rotate over the ulna. So once we know this becomes incredibly important. For the forearm, we're going to do a little bit of a recap here, but essentially, just remember that these 2 points exist. That's going to make your life so much easier.